meeting of the Silver City Town Council meeting to order. If you'd all stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the salute to the New Mexico state flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol for friendship of the United States.
Good evening and welcome. For those of you who do not know me, I am Mayor Pro Tem Guadalupe Cano, and excuse me. I am Mayor Pro Tem Guadalupe Cano. I am conducting the meeting this evening because the mayor is not available to be here in person, but he will be joining us by phone and making some comments a little later on in the meeting. Also on the phone we have our attorney, Mr. Reynolds, in case there are any questions for him. So welcome to the town staff, Chief Portillo, to all of you in the audience. Thank you for being here with us. We'll start with changes to the agenda. Are there any changes to be made to the agenda? No? Okay. And moving on to ceremonies, there are none. Proclamations, there are none. And council comments, and we'll begin this evening with Councilor Bencomo.
Thank you. I don't have much to say other than I'm wishing the mayor a speedy recovery, and that'll be it for me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Snyder.
I'm excited to let people know about a pilot project at the wastewater treatment plant. Silver City Recyclables will be mixing green waste in the form of wood chips with the sludge off the wastewater treatment plant to form compost. Sludge is the byproduct of making wastewater to clean water. The sludge currently is taken to the landfill. If the pilot compost project works as expected, the pathogens in the sludge will be killed and a beneficial sludge compost mixture can be used as a soil amendment instead of a waste taking up landfill space.
Thank you. Councilor Prince?
Thank you. To keep comments short this evening, I first wish to thank Mayor Pro Tem Cano for his service in stepping up this evening to chair our council. In Mayor Ladner's physical absence, I wish to boost one of his favorite community service projects, Toss No Moss, convening at the Grant County Community Foundation's parking lot on Polk Street at 9 a.m. this Saturday. In the same vein, I also wish to echo the welcome of Ms. Jamie Seacrest, the Foundation's new director, as well as the return of Ms. Iris Nolasco to our community to direct the Commons. I thank Mr. Brown for his leadership and commitment for our town supporting the Commons after the presentation this year. As we all work to identify and fill in the gaps we see while our community is in this period of growth, I'm heartened by the leadership we share and I'm grateful for their efforts, as well as those of our public officials on this council, employees in this room, and all of our engaged citizenry. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. My comments this evening are pretty short as well. First, I want to thank Police Chief Freddie Portillo for the article that he sat down for an interview for this past week. I think it was really informative in the Daily Press, and it was written by Lisa Jimenez, who may be in the audience. And it was really good. I think it's really good for us to put out factual information so people understand that things are actually going pretty well as far as the town goes. And so there are some things that need to be worked on, and we have one of our representatives is here tonight, so maybe we can discuss some of those with him. And then I would just also like to talk a little bit about cannabis, because I know all of us have been getting a lot of phone calls this past week, especially about a specific dispensary, which I'm pretty sure we're going to hear a little bit later today. One of the things I want to address, because I know it's been coming out a lot on social media, is there's been a question of why we have so many dispensaries. I speak only for myself when I say I think we have too many too. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about that, because the state and the state legislature have passed the law saying that we can have dispensaries, but when they wrote that law, they did not put a provision in there for municipalities to limit the number of cannabis dispensaries. So until the legislature deals with that, we're kind of stuck. And so yes, there could end up being one on every corner at the rate we're going, because every community in New Mexico is having the same problem at this point. Like I said, we're going to have a legislator here this evening, so maybe he can discuss that a little bit as well. And now I would just ask Mayor Ladner, do you have any comments this evening?
Thank you, Councilor Mayor Pro Tem Cano. The only thing I want to say is I want to thank all of council members for their get well wishes
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, moving on to approval of minutes. The approval of the regular meeting on March 26, 2024. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve those.
Councilor Kano?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Kano. I move to approve the minutes of regular meeting on March 26, 2024.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, next is public input. I will call you up one at a time, and you'll have 5 minutes to give us your input. We ask that you continue to face us so that we can hear you. And if I happen to mispronounce your name, which is possible, please just say it correctly. That way the city clerk can have it in the minutes, okay? And we'll start this evening with Richard Grossman. And remember, you have 5 minutes to speak, and this is not question and answer. It's just you give us your comments and we listen to them, so we will not be responding. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Are we on? Now we're on. It was on. Okay, I'm here to talk about an ordinance that you folks considered at the last council meeting, and put it forward to be approved or rejected at the next council meeting. I and the rest of the neighborhood didn't know that that was coming up at the last council meeting, so we weren't here to offer input, so I'm going to offer it now. And we'll also be back at the next council meeting to offer input. And that's ordinance 1327, which had to do with public nuisance / clause 14 in one of the laws that discuss public nuisance and dogs barking and so on. To be clear, just in case anybody's wondering, I like dogs. And we have 26 dogs in our neighborhood in 14 different households. And of those 26, 14 are real good friends of mine. All right, so it's not like I hate dogs. That's not the case. What I hate is dog barking, either frequently or continuously. Now, ordinance 1327 / public nuisance. At the previous council meeting, some things were brought up and some things were in the alternative ordinance that Mr. Prince offered. Fences aren't really a practical requirement in my mind, and they really don't solve the problem. One of the houses I have a concern with actually put up screen over his fence gate or his gate to get into the yard, and he has these large wooden fences. Doesn't stop the dogs from knowing what's going by. They still bark like crazy, so it doesn't really fix anything. And it's as was brought up by you, ma'am, in the previous meeting, a lot of people can't afford to go put fences up around their house, but it wouldn't do any good anyway, so it's not really necessary. Now, I do agree that the clause 14 does need clarification, like actually every ordinance I've looked at needs clarification. So, I mean, everything has words in it that could be interpreted 2 or 3 different ways. So if you misinterpret it, you could be confused by the ordinance. But deleting that clause, deleting paragraph 14 of section, what the heck is it? Deleting that paragraph, which is the subject, the primary action in ordinance 1327, leaves us with nothing to address dog barking at passers-by, effectively nothing to address the public nuisance of dog barking. I know we're going to have the 10-minute, 30-minute thing off in the other ordinance and so on, but that doesn't really take care of the fact that dogs bark at people as they're walking by houses on a public thoroughfare. That's the problem that we're after. The other problem has been out there for a while, and the 10 minutes, 30 minutes thing might be able to resolve it, I'm not sure. Now, what is a public nuisance? I actually had an excerpt from private property law I found on the internet that I was going to read to you as the definition of a public nuisance. But I went looking for Chapter 34, Section 179, the ordinance. And oddly enough, I found it on the city website. Not odd that I found it, it's there. But what I found was the lead-in, the preamble, the whereas, whatever you call it, to that ordinance that that was written back in January of 2011 when it was approved, January 11th of 2011. And I read that to you, and this is really very much the definition of a public nuisance. The town council of the town of Silver City finds that unreasonable, loud, disturbing, annoying, and unnecessary noise degrades the environment of the community to a degree that is harmful to the health, welfare, and safety of its inhabitants and visitors. The town council finds that such unreasonable noise interferes with comfortable enjoyment of life and property, interferes with well-being, tranquility, privacy of the home, both causes and aggravates health problems, disrupts business, which may lead to less commerce, and the town council finds that both the effective control and elimination of unreasonably loud, disturbing, annoying, unnecessary noise are essential to the health and welfare of the town's inhabitants and visitors, and to the conduct of normal pursuits of life, including recreation, work, and communication. Town council finds that adoption of this ordinance is necessary for the health, safety, and welfare of the town, and will promote enjoyment of public rights, effectively to be able to enjoy my property, for other people to be able to enjoy the town of Silver City by walking on thoroughfares, public thoroughfares. Now,
Mr. Grassman, you've reached your 5 minutes.
oh, it's over?
Yes.
Okay, now, if somebody else is talking, can they cede their time to me so I can finish?
I need to hear that from the next person, which would be Marla Grassman.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Hi. I also love dogs, and we have family and friends that come visit, bring their dogs, they stay with us, but they're not excessive barkers. I've had problems over the years. I've gone and talked to the neighbors. I have been awakened from my sleep. I've had to go over in the middle of the night and tell them to please quiet their dog. Also, you know, it's not about me walking on the street that bothers me as much as being on my own property. I can take out the trash. The dogs are excessively barking at me. I can't sit on my front porch, enjoy a cup of coffee, or watch the sunrise or sunset. They're just, you know, they're annoying. So that's my problem. I want the neighbors to do something, train their dogs. And these people who have the bad barkers, I noticed, do not walk their dogs, ever. I've never seen them walk their dogs. They're in the yards all the time. And responsible dog owners take care of their animals and train them. So that's it, and I guess I'll give it back to Rick.
So one of the things I did was look at the video recording of the last council meeting. A few things were said in that meeting that were disturbing to me. First one really isn't really disturbing, but is mostly a fact. Officer Tony said that she never uses this clause, paragraph 14, when she goes out. I know at least one time she did, when I submitted a claim, but this was last summer, so it may just be out of her mind at this point. She's not thinking about that. But the Corporal Jari, speaking about his dog, said he suggested things like tell people to go a different direction instead of hearing his dog bark, wear earplugs, get used to dogs barking. That is unacceptable, and particularly from the person who's in charge of enforcing the ordinances that control dog barking. We need responsibility and consideration for neighbors, not attitudes. I've got a memory stick here, and one of the reasons that you haven't seen a whole lot of videos from me and complaints from me is because I was under the impression that all the folks were actually working on a solution to Clause 14, the ambiguity in it. And then I find out 3 weeks ago, oh no, we're just going to repeal the whole darn thing and say, oh, it's over here in the other chapter, in chapter 6 or whatever that is. Not real happy about that, but I haven't been turning any videos. I have 22 videos on this USB stick that I'll give to the clerk, and he can distribute to all of you. And you can see that this is still going on full stream, and you'll hear how loud this barking is. Don't turn your phone down, have it at normal volume, and you'll hear how loud it is. Right next door to us, right outside our door, as a matter of fact. I think the thing we should do is form a citizens committee, advisory committee is mentioned in this old ordinance here, 1175, that they got the input from the Citizens Advisory Committee. I think that'd be a good idea in this case to put one together, and I'd like to be on it, to decide how to clarify these laws that we're trying to enforce for a public nuisance. And then enforce the laws. And once the law's there, staff doesn't get to decide, I'm not going to enforce this because I don't like it. It's not your choice, staff. It's the choice of the city government creating a law. And once that law's in place, we enforce it. I'm sure the police will agree with that. So, so that's my story. I'll give the clerk this USB drive.
Thank you. Next is Paul Barsom.
Hello, I'm Paul Barsom. I live at 606 North California Avenue. You're going to hear this from all of us. I too love dogs. I have a dog. I live in the neighborhood. I'm one of the neighbors of Rick's who has a dog. So I'm going to read, I've been following this, and I think there are some misunderstandings, maybe some, things that could be cleared up. So I'm going to address that and maybe suggest a couple of things. But let me start by just reading something out of the goals and objectives of the township, which says in the very center of it, and it's not very many words in the whole thing, it says, to pass ordinances and create policies which will provide for the safety, health, and welfare of the citizens, and to provide management and so forth. So let me kind of say what I'm going to say and keep that in mind while I say it. So one of the misconceptions, I think, is that the big problem is dogs barking at people as they go by. Now, I don't like dogs barking at me as I go by either, especially when they're this tall and have their elbows on the fence and are snarling at me, which happens in our neighborhood. But I don't think that's really the fundamental problem that people have. The problem that people have is that a lot of people in Silver City leave their dogs out all the time. Dogs are smart. They get bored. They need things to do. They're also territorial. So after a while, they just, for fun, bark. They'll do it all day and all night. Second of all, many houses have a lot of dogs, and I'll address that later. But I don't even think that's the primary problem. So what happens in these houses is their backyard essentially becomes a kennel. There are dogs out there all day and all night. They're unsupervised, and they just do whatever they want. And I'm not passing judgment on people. That's what the situation creates. So imagine life for somebody in one of the houses next to one or more of these dog kennel houses. They have regular, sometimes constant, and unpredictable amounts of eruptions of barking at all times of day that are set off by passersby, other dogs, deer, anything. Anything will set dogs off in these houses. So it's a life of this constant low-level stress and exasperation for these people. And like I say, I'm fortunate not to be right next to one of these things. In fact, that stress is actually a health risk for these folks. Many of these people are not young either, so I'll just kind of throw that in. It's also a property value issue. Imagine trying to sell a house like this, or imagining that someday you'll want to in the next lifespan of the dogs that live next to you. Buyers are going to come, dogs are going to erupt, buyers are going to leave for good, and that's just a fact, and it's a real potential problem for these folks. So there are other reasons, but if any of you after those two are thinking that this isn't a serious problem that doesn't need a remedy, then I'm confused by what I just read in the goals and objectives of the town council. So it shouldn't be hard to draft an enforceable ordinance that's clear reporting, that sets clear expectations for dog owners and reasonable penalties for nuisance properties. But first, back to the too many dogs per house. There are too many. With 4 houses within 300 feet of me have 3 or more dogs. Why? Did people know when they moved in there or after that there's a limit of 2 dogs? I don't think so. I think that most of the people in the kennel houses don't have any idea that they're in violation of anything at all. They have no idea. So first, I think the town would do itself and all of us a service by letting people know the law of the town, not just the kennel house people, but everyone, and work on an enforceable ordinance, putting it in place, including a timetable for adoption. If we could get a reasonable ordinance, including reasonable things like grandfathering dogs that have been here for a reasonable amount of time and letting people know that, at a certain point, we're going to come around and check and see if you still have too many dogs, But I don't think, that's really the problem. I think we can make this better. I really do. Finally, in the end, most people just need to train their dogs. Like I said, I own a dog. He barks at things too. He's a dog. But I don't let him keep at it, and I do things, like not leave him outside on his own for extended periods of time when I'm gone, because he'll bark. I know he'll bark, so I don't do it. And I just don't want them to be a nuisance, which I see as being everybody's job, is not being a nuisance to their neighbors. So people can be steered to resources for training, handling their dogs. Some of our neighbors have taken steps. They don't leave their dogs out as much. There's one house that took a particularly vicious fence-fighting dog and gave it its own enclosure farther back in the dog away from the street. And nobody's making them do this by law. They just found out that their dogs were a nuisance. And I think some of it is they don't want to get in trouble, but some of it is just, I don't want to be a bad neighbor. So if people know, I think they'll act. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Doreen Buckham. Excuse me, I may have gotten that right.
I'll try to be short. Well, let's see, I'm a little short, so is this better? I'm Doreen Buchan, and I live in a nice neighborhood, and people come and walk. It's a really popular neighborhood for senior citizens especially, and they come up 8th, and then they tend to come around on California and head down on Kelly, which is not busy. And I've gotten to know many of the dog walkers and the people without dogs, and I like them all. I have dogs nearby. Charlotte, a young German Shepherd, who I once called Animal Control, and they came and picked her up because I didn't know who she belonged to. There's just this beautiful young dog running across the street in front of the mail truck, and I thought, that dog's going to get hit by a car. So they came and picked her up, and I guess she had a chip, so they called my across the street neighbors who are now dear to me, and they had to go pick their dog up from Animal Control. So they will do something if you call about a dog on the loose. But my problem dogs are, can I name an intersection?
Absolutely.
8th and California. When I attended the university, I could walk up 8th, but I wouldn't go all the way to California because I had the tar scared out of me by 3 barking dogs, one of who was huge and could see me through a chain link fence. And I started instead turning on Cheyenne and cutting up Cheyenne to 6th. So I avoided the 3 dogs that were scary. And then right next door to me are 3 tiny dogs, and they're not scary, but they're a menace to my health. I'm 67. I've had a heart procedure in 2014. I have high blood pressure pills of 3 varieties, and I want to live to be 102. And those 3 little dogs, they don't just bark at everyone who passes by on 6th. They bark at a leaf that falls off the tree. They don't seem to care about deer. I used to look out the window, sitting in my living room, at them and think, what are they barking at? I'm alarmed. Is there an intruder? No, they're just idiots. So I started just leaving the area with the TV and going to the far opposite side of my house over near California Avenue and avoiding part of my own house because those dogs are disrupting the quality of life. You can't sit and just read a book in the daytime and have it be peaceful and perfectly quiet because 3 little yippers will drive you up the wall. And I really do like dogs. I know the name of 4 dogs in my neighborhood, as those dogs are my friends. If I was out and someone attacked me with a baseball bat, those dogs would probably come and defend me. Ben, Lily, Charlotte, or 3 of them. And those dogs are cared about by their owners. They're taken for walks, and they're under control. The dogs that are being nuisances, and there's one on Cheyenne at Coombs Circle. So those 3 are just here in recent couple of years, and people worked hard in their yard. I thought, these are gonna be great neighbors. Even put up a fence, but there's dogs behind that fence that if you walk on that side of Cheyenne, they will like scare you like the dogs scared me that are at the alley almost to 8th. When I was walking to the university, I'm walking through the alley, watching where I put my feet because I don't want to fall down. And I hear this loud bark like come at me, and it caused me to like jump out of my boots. And as I came down, I landed on a rock bigger than, like about the size of a tennis ball. and it caused me to twist my ankle and fall down on the ground. I could hardly make it to bronze casting that day. And I'm like, I shouldn't walk that way anymore. So those dogs are disrupting people's pleasurable activity of walking through the neighborhood. And people shouldn't have to take a certain different route because of naughty dogs. So I'm here to say I'm a dog lover, but I would really like the ordinance that was adopted in 2011 to be reinstated and enforced. And who do I call? That just should be in the notes. Do I call animal control about these dogs? Do I call the police? We have wonderful police here in Silver City, but I feel like a nuisance calling the police about doggies. So thank you for listening and keep up the good work.
Thank you. And last we have Georgiana Duarte, excuse me.
Hi, I'm Georgiana Duarte, and I live at 408 Chavez. And I'm going to read my notes because I don't want to forget anything. First of all, thank you, City Council, for your service, always. And thank you, Albert, for your kindness and constant ear when I'm upset. I hear quality of life issues all the time when I come here, so I didn't want to come tonight, but I felt that it was important to come. I have been dealing with my own health issues, and so I really didn't know about Mayor Ladner, so if he's listening, I hope he heals well. Quality of life, I think, is something we all want in this community, and I want to thank the Silver City Police for really conducting rigorous speed enforcement on Little Walnut. But it's, unfortunately, it doesn't meet the severity of the frequency of speeders. And I know that the police are not responsible for the speeders, but it is out of control, and it has been for quite a while. I've been at this podium for over 2 years with the same issue. I've called dispatch so many times I've lost count. I have videotaped, I have photographed. I have politely asked people to slow down, only to have full beer cans thrown at me, a sack of garbage, people backing up and cursing at me. I have been smoked by trucks going in reverse and doing a U-turn just to make their point that they're never going to slow down. I've been sprayed with gravel more than once. And when I emailed the police department, I was responded several times, but one that disparaged me for using my phone while driving, which I did not do. I stopped and photographed, and I was in another car photographing as well. When I call the dispatch, I'm asked if I have a speeding device to know if these people are really speeding. I don't know of any citizen with a speeding device. I do know at 70 years of age when someone is going 50. I do know at this age when I am injured for just taking a walk. And I do know at this age that I am really growing tired of calling and calling and calling and having them say, oh, it's you again. Or, really, you again? Videos don't seem to work. Photographs don't seem to slow people down. I don't even think a community survey, it was advised to me to take a community survey. I don't even think that would elicit a plan of action on that road. But I really do think that a recommendation for an electronic sign or to continue the efforts of giving tickets. But I've heard many stories from people who said, I only got a warning, ha, ha, ha. So it's not been consistent. And I do think that electronic signage to give tickets would be a good start. And my final recommendation is speed bumps. And I'm speaking specifically between Kane and the school. That strip, they start to speed at Michigan and they don't stop until they hit Kane, and then they sort of get into a rhythm. But I am so exhausted from trying to have a walk, just a simple walk, and I refuse to stop walking because people can't go the speed limit. So I'm really pleading with you. I am pleading with you as a city council to find some solutions for that road, whether it's speed bumps or electronic signage. It is just really an accident waiting to happen. And I'm really tired of being here with bad news and asking for help. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to reports. Our first report is an update from State Representative Luis Terrazas.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I hope the mayor gets better soon. Thank you, council, and let me get my papers here together. But thank you for giving me an opportunity to give you a legislative update and go over a few things. I do want to tell you that we did have, and you've already read in the paper, because we've said it a number of times, and I think I better finish telling everybody hi though first. How are you, Mayor Pro Tem, council, staff, our city manager, and our chief of police? I'm glad to be here today. But you know, you've seen it in the newspaper already, where we've reported that we brought together approximately $83 million. The biggest one of those funds being that we were able to pass $70 million for Highway 180, the second phase of Highway 180. For those people who are wondering, when are we going to start? I'm right there with you guys. They keep pushing that back. Apparently there was some issue with some of the paperwork. I'm not sure if it was a right-of-way or what happened, but they had to pull back the bid and then rebid again. The project for Phase 1, which is between Baird and Hurley to the railroad tracks. Phase 2 is what I'm talking about, the $70 million that we were able to pass this year, and that's from the railroad tracks to the Grant County, Luna County line. So that was the biggest thing. But overall, I'm going to kind of cover some of these things, and I'll cover some things that are probably important, at least to me. And I know that we worked on a lot of capital outlay. It was very well-rounded, I think. We worked on, you know, projects like the community center, Gila Regional, for equipment to support our hospital, right? All the various schools, including Western New Mexico University, where Representative Jones and I, who's adjacent to me here in Luna County, worked to get a couple $100,000 to Western in hopes of working on that vocational center. I really think there's a big need for a vocational center. Give our kids an opportunity to get other education other than a four-year education, and hopefully keep our kids here. And I'm working on, what I'm trying to do, council, is really focus on struggling families that are working paycheck to paycheck, protecting against legislation that could hurt them, and work on ways to keep our kids here at home. So for me, the vocational school is a big thing. Funding things like the fairgrounds, helping our you know, you saw that the track there in Cliff needed a lot of help. Our community centers, you saw that we were, you know, together with the governor's capital outlay, brought in money for the recreation center. We were able to help you guys with the annex building and the Silco Theater. I think those were good. Those were nice things to be able to do. But we also had other projects, sewer and water projects throughout the county. And so we are experiencing a change, and you're seeing the shift of what redistricting did a few years ago. I've already gone through my election through the new district, but the senators are now going through that. So Grant County will end up having one representative and two senators, whereas before it was two representatives and one senator. And so, so you're seeing the shift in how we work together for capital outlay. I think one of the most important things to remind everybody when it comes to capital outlay, if you remember, and I think Mr. Brown here remembers going to the university, and we do that at the end of the year, usually in the first week of December, last week of November. We, through prospectors, we all come out and each municipality, the county, et cetera, come forward and express the needs and the priorities of their respective entity. And so you give us all that information, and then we go to the legislature and we get our, I don't know, it's about a 3-inch binder there of all the requests, which I think, I can't remember the number, but it was upwards of $90 million of requests. And we only get a few dollars, unfortunately, right? A few $1 million to cover that. Although we came back with 83 million, that was because we had other things to do, but other ways to bring in money. But what's really important is that the legislators must work together to balance the capital outlay that we're spending. And because we're each allocated so many dollars, and if let's just say we both sponsor the same project twice, and it's a $500,000 project, and I sponsor it, and the senator sponsors it, one of those two sponsorships is gonna get vetoed. And so it's important for us to work together, sit together, and making sure that we share a project. You know, I'll get this project, you get that project, and spread the money throughout the district, throughout the county in this instance, so that we don't lose any dollars, and we leverage every dollar that we can. And so, you know, I think we did really, really well. In addition to that, there was other stuff that we have the junior money, what you know as junior money. And in junior money, I did some other things for the schools and try to help the schools with uniforms and helping them with track mats and helping with things like that. But also, I put $50,000 aside to help all our little libraries. Our libraries aren't funded properly. $50,000 for domestic violence to help El Refugio. $20,000 to help our sexual assault center, SAS. And so those are important things, I think. And one of the junior money funds that I spent was to address our border security. And you think, wow, what can the state of New Mexico do for border security? We had conversations with the state police and Homeland Security, and one of the things that they requested is if we could get funds for the state police to monitor cars coming in throughout all the corridors from the border on up. License plate readers is what they were asking us to do, so that, you know, because fentanyl's pouring in, we have human trafficking that's a problem, and so that was the tool that they asked us to give them, garner support for them. So Representative Jones and I worked on that with $320,000 to put to scatter those license plate readers from Doña Ana all the way across through, it would be Luna, a little portion of Grant, and Hidalgo, to try and give us some sort of border security and give them some aid. And so it was, I think that was a good, I think that was a good thing for our border security, but it's just one small tool really for the problem that we have. And other things, I sponsored 26 bills, co-sponsored 11. It was a very busy 30-day session for me. I worked on a lot of bills that try to address some of the issues that we had, like the denial of bail, pretrial detention. We know it as catch and release. That's kind of the word that's used. But it didn't go anywhere, unfortunately. Okay, we worked on the biggest thing. I'm trying to gather my thoughts so I stay in focus. Is HB 236, which was a big deal. I've been working on that for 4 years, where we give people an opportunity that are return to work, retirees to come back to work. You know that we're lacking in law enforcement, firefighters, correctional officers, paramedics, court security. You saw what happened over in Luna County just recently. Dispatchers, just to give some of the examples. Some of the correctional correctional facilities if I remember right, we're understaffed by 40%. It's a danger to society, danger to those men and women who are working in those facilities. The other thing that I worked strongly to support is local government control for our school boards, and one of those is the 4-day school week. Very, very important. Obviously, I'm not sure if you know, but on the House, we were able to pass an amendment to the funds that we're giving PED. And the idea was the amendment was basically that the PED couldn't use any of these funds to enforce this 4-day, 5-day week controversy. And so that, of course, unfortunately got vetoed by the governor. And so you're now seeing some of the school districts across the state where they're suing the PED, and so they're in a lawsuit. But the other thing I wanted to talk about is two other bills, and if you remember, I was talking about how I worry about people that are living paycheck to paycheck, especially when we see the issues of people struggling to fill their tank because of the cost of fuel, pay their utilities, going to the grocery store, and inflation has affected them in all sorts of forms, for goods and services. And so that is where I worry a lot about New Mexico. We're a poor state. I mean, let's just be honest, we're a poor state, and there's many, many people under the poverty level. For those people that don't know what that is, it's an individual making less than $14,000 a year. So those are generally people that are, probably widows, people that just had the fixed income people, right, getting Social Security, maybe their pension if they had one. And so it's very difficult when their paycheck is fixed and they're elderly or disabled, or for whatever reason they can't raise any more money. And so when we see legislation or inflation affect them, right, and they kind of sometimes can go hand in hand, it can affect that person or that family to struggle. And so we have bills that really sound good but are troubling once you start getting into the details. One of those is the Clean Fuel Standards Bill, which unfortunately is good in some ways, but at this time it's going to cost, they're estimating it to cost 38 cents to 50 cents a gallon over the market cost of gasoline. And for those people that that travel, all you have to do is travel from here to California or Oregon or Washington and see the effects of the Clean Fuel Standards that has been passed in those states that have adopted this sort of legislation. If you have doubts, all you have to do is travel and go. As soon as you cross the state, you're going, wait a minute, what happened here? And this is part of that issue. The problem is, it's unfortunately on the backs of hardworking New Mexicans that this is going to affect, right? And it's going to go across the board. It doesn't matter who you are. So the other one that was a struggle and was a disappointment was the Paid Family Medical Leave Act. Now, let me go back here and make sure that everybody understood. The Clean Fuel Standards Act did pass, okay? So that one passed. And so that, I don't know when that comes into effect in the next couple of years, but you're gonna see that happening. But the Paid Family Medical Leave Act, which is something that has, some support and a lot of opposition. There were 3 bills in the House circulating between the House and the Senate. One was the more palatable bill that I'd say worked with multiple sides, and I would say had bipartisan support. And unfortunately, that one was set aside. The more unbalanced bill, the bill that had, I would say, bipartisan opposition, is the bill that came down to the floor and didn't pass, okay? Now, some of those things, the reasons that it didn't pass, I would say when you ask what are the actuarial figures And if, for those people that don't know what an actuary is or what how you acquire those numbers, it's I'll use it in a sense of maybe our insurance. There's a person that is an actuary and he uses statistics and calculations to figure out what premium is, right? What your premium is when you're buying insurance, how much money it would take to fill this bowl that we're all gonna share in this premium, and how much is it gonna be enough to sustain the demand of what's gonna be needed, right? So if whether it's, I don't know, it doesn't matter what it is, if your house burns down, you wanna make sure that there's enough money there to satisfy your need. Well, that's the same thing with the paid family medical leave. I asked that simple questions to, as an accountant, as a business person, business-minded person, that's important that was a big deal for New Mexico. And unfortunately, their answer was, we're gonna do that 2 years after it, if it passes today. And that really didn't sit well with me. I can't, especially knowing that this would be a mandatory payroll tax to the vast majority of New Mexicans and small businesses across the state. The Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and other chambers of commerce across the state were adamantly against it. It was just out of balance. And so, when we had things like this, it had great things in it. Some were good pieces, but overwhelmingly had more bad pieces in it. And so to me, it's setting it back and saying, hey, we need to go back to not necessarily the drawing board, but we need to work out these differences, bring everyone to the table, and see how this is really going to affect small businesses who are already struggling with inflation themselves, struggling with employees, and struggling in many different aspects. And what is that going to cost a person, a working family, who mandatorily will have a deduction on their paycheck when they're living paycheck to paycheck? And I think that's the real question. Where do we find that middle ground and make sure that it's fundamentally and financially sound, and that we're not going to turn around and say, you know what, we didn't do these actuarial numbers 2 or 3 years later, and we say, you know what, now we have to increase that mandatory deduction and increase it maybe where it's harder on a family. I just, when I saw that, I thought of my first paycheck when I was a kid, making $3.35 an hour. And you look at this before I went, I was still in high school. I was 15 years old, and I look at my paycheck and I go, "What in the world is FICA?" I didn't ask for FICA to take any money. So that just kind of makes you think of what the average New Mexican sees. And if there was an additional deduction there that you don't get to opt out or in, it's mandatory. I thought that needs some more conversation. So we're going to keep working. We got a lot of work to do. I think we need to continue to find ways to support our youth, and so one of those ways that I think I'm going to say is, I think we need to leverage not only for our vocational school, but we need to really look at things like baseball and softball to keep the kids that are playing here, give them at least an option to stay here. They don't have to stay here, but at least give them an option to have that opportunity. So when you look at, what is $750,000 when you have the surplus that we had, I think it's important for us to look to see what sometimes when we're targeting, let me see how I can say this in a nice way. I think we saw Western New Mexico University go through, as an institution, got beat up, where it should have, in my opinion, we should have had those questions, gone through the manner and let it go through the process, and not tarnish the whole institution as a whole. It should have been looked at and open the books, let them audit the books, let the process go through its course, but not tarnish the institution. I say that because it was hard to garner support, I know. And so, anyway, last thing I was going to say, Mayor Pro Tem, is I put a bill in there to try to balance that idea where throughout the state, all higher higher institutions, higher education institutions would have to also, look at their expenditures, not just one for one entity. So just trying to support our local university and the importance of all the jobs that it provides here for our city.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that some of the counselors have questions or comments. No, I'm surprised. Mayor, do you have anything to say? No? Okay, well, I do actually have a couple of questions. A couple of these things we've actually talked about before, but I'm hoping you can give us some ideas for the community. One of the issues that our town is facing, and a lot of the other towns in New Mexico are also facing, is that when the cannabis state law was passed, one of the things that was left out of it was a local control option to limit the number of cannabis dispensaries. So in our case, we have 13 at the moment, and that's, more than 1 per 1,000 people, which is a little crazy. So is there anything that can be done? Do you think that it's something that the legislature will take up, or do you think they're just gonna let us suffer?
Well, when that legislation came forward, I was in the health committee, and to be honest, I fought against it because there were a lot of holes in that legislation. It was being rushed through, and now you're seeing some of that. Okay, you're seeing some of the participants that are not licensed. You're seeing oversaturation in places. We're getting complaints where they're putting cannabis farms, and they're big farms in residential areas in Doña Ana County especially. So you're getting a lot of these things, and there's other things that are there. People they're not being regulated to pay their some of them aren't paying their taxes and et cetera. So there's a lot of things there, and this is where I think local control is important. I have mixed feelings about that. I think I don't want to have the answer for that, because there's one part of me that says, Mayor Pro Tem, do we let the market just weed things out by itself? Like we do other businesses. If there's too many, I don't know, too many grocery stores, somebody's gonna close. If there's too many of any one thing, it'll clean itself up. Or, do we wanna put a limit like we have for alcohol for many time? For many years, we had a limit on alcohol licensing. So I don't know the answer to that. I don't wanna give a straight answer on that, because I think that would take some conversation to find what that is, and listen to municipalities, and listen to both the enforcement and other legislators, and at least have a conversation about it through the interim. I think it's a very, very valid question, but I think that's where I'm at this point, getting hit with that question. I wouldn't give you a straight answer, because I think it takes more conversation. You said you had another one.
Yes, and the other thing that I know is weighing on a lot of us, and you may have read in the newspaper, we have a lot of concerns about the judicial system, because our police officers work very hard, especially when we have a serious case, and they collect all the evidence and they do their part, and then it goes to the DA, and I don't know what happens after that, because that's not part of the city government. But it seems like we have that revolving door. Is there anything that's going to be done? I know the governor is interested in a special session. Is that something you think will be worked on?
You know what, I think that's something that needs to be worked on. I think there were plenty of bills that have circulated in the legislature over the last 3 years, 4 years, to address that issue. And it has not gone anywhere. And it's unfortunate, because DAs are coming to us and saying, we need this language cleaned up. We're getting law enforcement who feel the same. And unfortunately, I've been a sponsor of probably 4 or 5, maybe 6 of those bills, and bipartisan bills, not going anywhere. So I can't answer that. I think it is absolutely something that needs to be addressed. Absolutely, 100% vital to public safety for us to look, not just to think about it. We need to do something about it, and I adamantly am for it. As you know, Mayor Pro Tem and Council, my own family, I had my aunt and my cousin burned alive over a person that was causing trouble in the same, in and out, over and over and over, until something major happens, till someone passes away, someone dies. Now we gotta pull this person out of circulation. We saw another family who just saw a troubled teen that, shot another child. And that person had been in and out of trouble, but not until they do something severe. So, we have to quit reacting, and we need to be proactive. And there are some people, unfortunately, that, and I've heard numbers where they know 400 and some people are the same 400 people causing all the havoc in Albuquerque. They already know the names, and yet they're still coming in and out. So, I mean, I'm getting letters from the council in Albuquerque to do something. I've tried to do everything I can as far as sponsoring that type of legislation. We are only as strong as the support that we receive. And this is not a party, either party or whatever initiative. This is a public safety issue that affects every New Mexican across the state, no matter where you belong. And we have to really start talking and enforcing and garnering support through our communities, through our municipalities, through our law enforcement, and all work together to put pressure on that. Because the more support I receive from you, the better it is. And that goes to show, there's not one legislator that makes capital outlay work or, passes this all by themselves. It takes a number of people. And most importantly, it takes people from our municipalities, our people in our district, your support, the support of our county, the support of all of the citizens to make things happen. I can run up there all day long and ask for a highway. It's not, to be repaved. If I don't have the support of my community, it's not gonna help me. And so that's the Highway 180, where we're at today, for instance, is because of all of the people of multiple counties that use that to go to and from the mine or whatever, that it took all of our support to make that happen. And so I do want to remind everyone that it takes all of us to make that happen. And thank you for this opportunity. I hope I answered your questions. Anybody else have a tougher one?
Councilman Como?
Yes, Representative Terrazas. I was speaking on behalf of the people that have dispensaries here. We got some people that are abiding and doing their very best to do everything by the law. And my understanding is the Cannabis Control Division is short-staffed. I would like to see some of those people staffed and hit dispensaries and make sure that they're abiding by the rules and regulations out there, because it's not fair to the people that are actually trying to do the right thing. I understand that they closed a couple of shops, I think up in the Albuquerque area, maybe in Las Cruces. Is there a possibility of?
So to answer your question, a lot of my concerns with some of the legislation that sometimes wants to pass, by the way, I'm quoted by the Albuquerque Journal, when they were passing that legislation, we're setting ourselves up for failure, because we hadn't finished the conversation to plug all these things and address all these things. And anytime you do anything new, you're gonna have things that fizzle up and you go, oh my gosh, we didn't think of this, we didn't think of that. It's just gonna happen. And so, but there are good people that are doing good work. There are people that are following the rules. And maybe they are the people that need to also, those entities need to come together and say, hey, wait a minute. We need to come together and put pressure on the same legislators that passed all this and say, we need to clean up the language here to address some of these issues. Just because I'm against a particular thing doesn't mean that I won't help to make it better. Okay, I hope that, I don't know if that makes any sense. Just because, that's not, I don't smoke, that's not my thing. But just because I don't do that doesn't mean that you don't take thought and try to do your part as a legislator, and as speaking for myself, to try and make that better and clean up the industry. We already have it, it's in motion, it now needs to be cleaned up, and I think those are things that through the interim, if they'll reach out to me, those people who are in that industry, we can probably get them to have an opportunity to sit before LFC, sit before the Health Committee, some of the same committees that passed this legislation to address these issues. And I think it's important to do that, yes, sir. Because if someone's cheating, and whatever, it doesn't matter what business, if you're cheating, the guy that's following all the rules and paying all his taxes and paying his overhead and following all the rules has a major disadvantage to someone else that's not doing that. And it doesn't matter what business. If you're not following the rules, you have a disadvantage, and that's not fair, and that's not right. So we do need to address those things. All righty?
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you for your time.
Ms. Perry, I'm going to take a personal point of privilege and have a 5-minute recess. Okay, we're back in order. Okay, the next thing is the manager's report. Mr. Brown? No reports. Okay. Moving on, we have no public hearings and no unfinished business. So new business A is the approval or disapproval of Resolution 2024-07, acceptance and approval of the fiscal year 2023 audit. Mr. Brown?
We have Mike Stone with us today from Stone McGee, who does our annual audit.
Mr. Stone?
I'm coming. I was afraid that thing was going to hit me in the nose. Okay, short and sweet. You guys have an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, which is as high an opinion as an auditor can give on financial statements. This year, the town spent less than $750,000 in federal funding, so we didn't have a compliance audit of federal funds. However, we test them anyway, and we didn't have any problems. And finally, we had one comment, and it's on me, not them. Their the state auditor has a mandated deadline, and we did not meet it, okay? Nothing to do with them, it was solely because of us. I've had some staffing problems, and we just, it just took us a little while. The town of Silver City is bigger than you think, and we call ourselves a small town, but they've got an awfully big budget and they get an unbelievable, the staff gets an unbelievable number of grants for this town. And each one of those has to be looked at individually. And they've got probably, I don't know exactly, 50 funds. And so it takes a while. But basically, that's all I have, except to remind you, obviously I'll answer any questions that you have, but other than that, I do remind you, it is an action item, and please approve it, because I don't want to start over. Okay? That's all I have, so I'll take questions.
Are there any questions from the council? No? Okay, then I would entertain a motion. Councilor Proof? Or Councilor Steiner?
I move to approve the fiscal year audit of 2023.
Okay, is there a second? Councilor Prince?
I second the approval of Resolution 2024-07, acceptance and approval of the fiscal year 2023 audit.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, I just wanted to share a story that I wanted to share the last time when the finance department was here. I spent a lot of time with other mayors and councilors because of Municipal League, and at the last Municipal League board meeting, one of the mayors was bragging that when he first took office, his municipality had like 56 findings or something, and he'd been in office for 4 years, and they were down to 28, and he was so excited about that. And then he told me, how many findings do you guys have? And I said, none. And he said, none? I said, we haven't had any the entire time I've been in office, and that's been 10 years. And I thought he was going to drop dead. So having such clean audits is really, really, really impressive. So thank you to the finance department. I know they work extremely hard to make it that way. And thank you, Mr. Stone, for the work that you do too.
No problem. And that would have gone through at least two auditors, so it's not just me that's given them a clean opinion, because we're required to step aside after 8 consecutive years for 2 years, and then we can come back again. But so it wasn't just me that's saying it, but you guys, I know you appreciate it, but I don't think I don't think, well, I'm not saying you guys, but I'm saying the town perhaps does not appreciate the professionalism that you guys you guys have in those offices at the town of Silver City. From the city manager on down.
We're here, Mayor.
So,
Okay, so now we're ready for the vote. Mr. Cedillo?
Aye.
Counselor Prince?
Aye.
Counselor Schneider?
Aye.
Counselor Kano?
Aye.
Motion passes.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next order of business, approval or disapproval of a public celebration permit application for Silver City Blues Fest and waiver of NMSA 1978 60-6B-10 for alcohol service near a church for May 25th and 26th, 2024, with alcohol served from 11 o'clock a.m. to 5:30 p.m. at 1201 North Pope Street, Silver City, New Mexico. Liquor license holder number 1, Little Toad Creek Brewery and Distillery, license number 67085, 203 South Mill Road, Silver City, New Mexico 88061. And Ms. Dalberdine?
Hello, councilors and Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you so much for hearing this tonight. I'm Teresa Dalberdine with Little Toad Creek Brewery and Distillery. I'm so excited that Blues Fest is going strong, back for another year, and this year 2 days instead of 1 in the park, which is great. This is the first time since COVID we've had back to 2 days. The organizers, Stephen and Mary, are doing a great job. They're so organized. The town has been so helpful in all of this, and this will be, I think, our 7th year doing Blues Fest as an alcohol vendor, and our 3rd year partnering with Q's, which has been a really great partnership. I think that we, Anthony and myself, really share the same amount of vigilance on taking care to make sure everything is safe, that we provide responsible alcohol service, which is our main job when we do this, to make sure everyone's having fun, but that no one's getting hurt, no one's getting overserved, and that minors are not being served. So we're very careful with that, and I think we've got a good plan, very similar to last year at this point. So we kind of have a model with the fencing and the entire park being fenced in, and just really excited to be a part of it. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. Do you have any questions, Council? Okay, then I would entertain a motion. Councilor Bencomo?
I move to approve a public celebration permit application for Silver City Blues Fest and waiver of MMSA 1978 60-6B-10 for alcohol service near a church for May 25th and 26th, 2024, with alcohol served from 11 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. at 1201 North Pope Street, Silver City, New Mexico. Liquor license holder 1 Little Toad Creek Brewery and Distillery, license number 67085, 203 South Mill Road, Silver City, New Mexico 88061.
Is there a second? Councilor Prince?
I'll second the motion as stated.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Okay, not all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, next order of business is the approval or disapproval of a special dispenser permit application for Silver City Blues Fest and waiver of NMSA 1978 60-6B-10 for alcohol service near a church for May 25th and 26th, 2024, with alcohol served from 11 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. At 1201 North Hope Street, Silver City, New Mexico. Liquor license holder Q Southern Bistro, license number 28098, 101 East College Avenue, Silver City, New Mexico 88061. Mr. Quintana?
Yeah, I'm just the same thing like Teresa said. You know, it's going to be the 3rd year that we're working together, and kind of more just because we would do stuff down by Q's all the years prior, and we always would work together, whether it was someone that, you know, was acting a certain type of way, and I'd call her and be like, hey, you know what I mean, be careful with this person and stuff like that. But for the last 3 years, we've just been working together on it, trying to make it a good public event for the town, and we appreciate all the work that Maker's Mark and the Future Forge and Mary and Stephen have done to put the event together, and the Arts Council and the town itself and all stuff, because without you guys, the event wouldn't be possible. So we're just trying to do it safe and similar, exactly the same thing that we did last year, is just card everybody and make sure everyone's having a responsible good time.
So, thank you. Are there any questions? No? Then I would entertain a motion. Okay, go ahead, Councilor Snyder.
I move to approve a special dispensary permit application for Silver City Blues Fest and waiver of NMSA 1978-60-6B-10 for alcohol service near church for May 25th and 26th, 2024, with alcohol served from 11 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. at 1201 North Pope Street, Silver City, New Mexico. Liquor license holder 1 Q's Southern Bistro, license number 28098, 101 East College Avenue, Silver City, New Mexico, 88061.
Is there a second? Councilor Bencomo?
I'll second as stated.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor? Okay, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thanks. Okay, moving on to the next order of business, the approval or disapproval of resolution 2024 what's that, 08? What's that number? 08, excuse me. A resolution authorizing the town manager to execute the joint powers agreement, organization, provisions, and bylaws by and between the New Mexico Self-Insurers Fund and the town of Silver City, New Mexico. Mr. Brown?
Mayor and Council, the town approved and adopted the JPA with the New Mexico Self-Insurance Fund back in 1982. It's been amended multiple times since then, but apparently the town never actually signed the agreement. So this resolution is, we were notified by the Municipal League earlier this year, and so this resolution ratifies the changes that have made since, as well as authorizes me to actually sign the agreement.
Are there any questions for Mr. Brown? No? Okay, then I would entertain a motion for this resolution. Councilor Prince?
I move to approve Resolution 2024-08, a resolution authorizing the town manager to execute the joint powers agreement, organization provisions, and bylaws by and between the New Mexico Self-Insurance Fund and the town of Silver City, New Mexico.
Okay, is there a second? Councilor Snyder?
I second the motion as stated.
Okay, is there further discussion? Okay, if not, then roll call, please, Mr. Cedillo.
Councilor Bencomo?
Aye.
Councilor Prince?
Aye.
Councilor Schneider?
Aye.
Councilor Kano?
Aye. Okay, this concludes the business of the Town of Silver City Town Council for the evening. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Councilor Bencomo?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, is there a second? Councilor Prince?
I second the motion to adjourn.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion, meeting adjourned.